Good evening, and welcome to Todd Klindt's SharePoint podcast number 239, recorded live on March 16th, 2015. I'm your host, not Todd Klindt. Instead, I am Shane Young, coming to you live from Cincinnati, Ohio, in the Rackspace offices here. And tonight, we're going to jump in and have a nice little show. In case you're wondering where Todd is, he wasn't here last week. He's not here again this week. I don't know. I'm starting to really equate it to the whole Putin thing, or Putin thing. Sorry, not Putin. That's what I do with my putter. The Putin thing, right? He was gone for about 10 days. We all kind of thought it was a little weird. And so I'm thinking maybe Todd's kind of on that same vacation plan as he is, but I'm not really positive. I do have some news to report, though, straight from the interviews he did today at Ignite. Turns out he did a really good job on the stage, even though that news is from like a month ahead. If we release it now, it proves that he's already still alive. So that's what we're hoping for here, is to confirm that Mr. Klindt is still with us. Since you have me tonight, I've decided to bring along a buddy, and it's my good friend Jonathan Mass. Jonathan, would you like to say hello to the fine people?
Hello, fine people. I'm just here so I don't get fined. Is it like way too late for that joke? Like months late for that joke?
Once again, I think it's all the audience, right? You went with the sports people, I went with the world politics, so maybe one of our jokes landed.
We were probably off on both sides.
Absolutely.
We need to make a Putin soccer joke.
There you go. Or Putin, right?
Yeah.
Putin Bay.
Maybe like a golf joke.
Ah!
It's getting worse.
It is. So I have noticed since the last show you've added some new equipment there. That's a pretty nice looking little setup you got going on.
Yeah, I guess. We can talk at length at it, but like you have like the classic talk show host where you have the microphone that actually is you're talking into, but then you have like the prop mic in front of you. This one's real. I have earbuds in, so.
See, I've always liked the Britney Spears look with the headset. I'm kind of start twerking here in a minute. And
you look like Britney Spears.
Hey, there was a nice picture of her and her new abs today. So best things money can buy.
All right. Photoshop.
Excuse me. And I will do my best not to having that coughing stuff, but Lori will hopefully edit it all out. All right. So anyway, before we get started, we want to do our Rackspace promo. So say thank you to Rackspace, who's providing this place, providing Jonathan's place, providing the bandwidth for this netcast. So check us out. Since it's Jonathan and I tonight, we'll give you the old rackspace.com/Microsoft URL. From there, you can see our Cloud OS offering. Jonathan and I spend a lot of times doing Microsoft private clouds with Hyper-V, System Center, Windows Azure Pack, and all that fun stuff. And while we're doing shameless promos, I'm hiring for an Azure engineer. If you are a super smart Azure engineer, dude, I need you. And Jonathan, what are you looking for?
Developers. Developers. See, and we got a Microsoft joke in there. Good old Steve Ballmer. I think we should bring that guy back. I'm looking for Azure developers. We've forklifted the product development team from our SharePoint team over to our cloud platform team. And so if you're a Microsoft dev and you're passionate about Azure and you want to check out Rackspace, drop me a line and let's have a conversation.
Unfortunately, there are no developers that watch this show because Todd and I have relentlessly made fun of them for years.
Maybe we'll hashtag developers when we tweet it out after the fact.
There you go. So production notes from last week. There was no show. Actually, turns out that both Todd and I had the flu, so he's all sick and like, hey, can you cover for me? I'm like, go to hell, I'm sick myself. So that's how we ended up with no one to do the show. Just, the flu. Yucky stuff. But the good news is, so this week you got Jonathan and myself. And next week, Todd will be back, and Todd is actually bringing in Mark Manassi. That's a pretty awesome one. I don't know who he bribed or, what he did. Maybe he won some type of charity auction, or maybe Mark's serving community service for something he did wrong. But that's pretty exciting that Todd's got Mark Manassi to come on the show and do an interview. So pretty fun. Also, he keeps claiming there's more guests coming, so I don't know. I guess more people need community service hours. Not sure. All right, so I think that's all my production notes, all the things I'm supposed to get out. So now I think this, Jonathan, where we jump in and get into the meat and potatoes of this show. All right. So I think our first topic, I brought up the fact that the Office 2016 preview is live. Apparently, you have to be a Office 365 for Business user to get into the preview for Office 2016. That's a little different, but that was announced today at the conference Microsoft was out. You also said that the Skype stuff was announced. Are you muted? Yeah, you can't talk to these people if you're on mute. Yep, still can't hear you. All right, well, I guess Jonathan's just not speaking to us anymore. Oh, there he goes. Now he dropped out. So also, along with the Office 2016 preview, we have the Skype for Business preview has been available. Saw some interesting screenshots on that today. It's kind of bizarro world, right? It looks like Skype. But it's not Skype, so it's now Skype for Business. Oh, Jonathan might be coming back.
Sorry.
Hey! I did the part where I talked about the Office preview for you.
I heard everything except for when you said that you couldn't hear me. My Google Hangouts freaked out. I do apologize. Blame the technology, though.
There you go. So I was kind of leading you in there because you seemed a little more up to speed on the Skype for Business announcement today than I was. So
not at all up to speed on it, but I did see it. I'm just kidding. So, well, the thing about the Skype for Business that I thought was so interesting is the rebranding of the client. Because we've had this link client now for like probably almost 10 years. Like 2007, I think you had Office Communicator and that was in 2007. I don't know when Link came along, maybe 2010. Did it launch with Office 2010 possibly?
Yeah, we'll pretend.
So that had a very similar look and feel to the Windows Messenger client. It was kind of lean. It was very chat focused, and they kind of did voice and video secondarily, and Link followed that pattern, and now we're getting this rebranding to Skype, and I'm curious how folks are going to receive that, because I personally don't think that the Skype client is great at anything. Like, I don't think it's a great chat tool. I'm not saying it's bad. I don't think it's like a top of the line chat tool. I'm not sure it's a top of the line video conferencing tool. Maybe Skype for Business is going to be better, but the images, the screenshots that I saw, it looked pretty similar.
Yeah, well, I kind of worry about the confusion it's going to cause, right? So today, to get through my day, right, I've got Link, which we use on the Rackspace network, and then like when I have chats with Microsoft, we use Link there. But then I still run Skype to have, more of the personal conversations or conversations with people outside the firewall. So, it kind of is a clear delineation for me, right? Link is this, Skype is that. But now I'm guessing if we fast forward a little bit, I'm going to have Skype for personal over here and then Skype for business running right beside it. And the two clients are just going to fight with each other all the time. And, hey, Mom, call me on Skype. What, do you mean Skype for business or Skype for personal? Oh.
So I think that you're not going to have both clients installed. I think your Skype, I don't know. But I believe you're going to get rid of your old version of Skype. I don't know if you'll be able to have them side by side, but I think Skype for Business will be able to communicate with your standard Skype. I know that it'll be able to communicate with both the Skype external users, or like whatever you want to call them, the cloud Skype, and then you also have your Skype for Business contacts in there. That's part of the sell, right? Is that you'll have one chat client to do your enterprise communications as well as the 300 million Skype users that already exist.
But then doesn't that open your internal, connections for shenanigans, right? I mean, one of the things like companies like us, right, our link is not federated with the world because we don't want people chatting in there other than rackers. Yeah. So if now we're saying Skype for Business is just Skype for everything, Skype for Business and Skype for Pleasure, as Lori corrected me, if we're not able to control that, yeah, Lori's big on pleasure, I don't know. But if you're not able to control those two worlds and all of a sudden now it's just one mismatch, it sounds like it's opening up for more bad scenarios, more social engineering attacks and things.
I would agree. I mean, yeah, everybody's going to have their own email server soon enough. I mean the yeah, I mean I would agree. I think it's just the user experience for Skype is not great. I think Skype for Business, you're downgrading. I think it's a downgrade to go from the link client. Not that the link client like blew anybody away, but you know, it's a collaboration tool first, right? It's not like a social. It's not like a social thing first. And I think the link client did a pretty excellent job, especially when you went from, it's like if you federated or integrated it with like your SIP trunk or whatever, and you could go from a voice chat to your phone or the link client on your mobile really quickly and easily. Like that was a really rich user experience, and I'm not sure that we're going to have all of that stuff. I'm not sure you're going to get that moving into the Skype for Business. Maybe you will, but like I said, I try and minimize my usage of Skype, especially now that at work we have Link available to us. I really enjoy using that for collaboration. I think it's very productive. And we used to use Skype pretty extensively, or we used Windows Messenger at SharePoint 911, and they nuked that for Skype. And that was, I think that was frustrating change. And now I kind of get concerned what's going to happen here. So.
Yeah, MSN Messenger still seems like the best chat client that I've ever used. I did see though in the announcement for the Skype for Business that they're bringing all the Skype emoticons. So when we have those, one-on-one, we're doing your business review, and be like, look, Jonathan, smiley face with a black sheep and a white sheep facing each other, and you'll know that we're having a serious business meeting.
So you laugh. People pick on emojis, but listen, like they've become a legitimate tool for expressive nonverbal communication. Like, look, I was reading a contributor guide to something. It had to do with GitHub. And if you don't know what GitHub is, it's like in the developer world, it's like this big social. It does source control, and it's like this big code repository. If you've heard of Codeplex, it's kind of like a more impressive Codeplex. It's more flexible and more open source focused. But on GitHub, like there was a question about like how do you effectively open issues and how do you provide feedback effectively to a pull request or someone's suggestion to how to change your code, and they like start with saying take advantage of the emojis to express how you are really saying, and they provide all these examples, and I don't have them in front of me so I can't provide them to you right now, but you can take my word for it that they were compelling. And it's true, right? Like the difference between something with a smiley face at the end and something with a frowny face or no face at the end, it does leave, it takes a little bit of the interpretation out of it for the reader.
And it's interesting, right? So I'm really bad about using smiley faces in pretty much all my work emails. And, it's who I am. I'm a happy person. But, all the articles I read, in my Harvard Business Review crap, they all say you should never use those type of symbols in your emails. So it's funny to hear you adamantly defend how much you feel like they're moving the ball forward for the world, and then the stuffy professional types like myself are told we're not supposed to use them. I don't know. I think they have a place. I like smiley faces.
It's not just smiley faces. Like there's more the whole emoji vocabulary is becoming quite robust and broad now, and it's like a standard too. Like all of these different chat platforms, like if you talk to Slack and if you look at Slack and Trello and all of these tools, these cloud-based tools, they're all supporting like the same emoji vernacular so that you know one and you move to the other.
Yeah, but so I can justify a hey, get your ass back to work smiley face email, right? But hey, where's your TPS report with two ninjas, cutting up a sheep? I think that's still a little stretching it for making sense in the workplace.
So emoji, they don't exactly solve your problem, right? Because there's a difference between, hey, great job, have a great weekend, smiley face, and hey, you were awful this week at your job, have a great weekend, smiley face, right? There's a difference between a smiley face that says, hey, I hope you're having a great time, and smiley face that says I have a shit-eating grin or whatever on my face right now as I don't know, sorry about that, As I have, sorry Todd, as I produce, I have a not so nice smiley face as I express myself to you.
Yeah.
But so I mean, emoji. My point is, emoji don't necessarily provide you the full story, but they do add more context for sure.
They have a place to a certain extent. All right, I feel like other than the 12-year-old girls who are listening to this conversation, everyone else is probably bored with us talking about smiley faces. So speaking of meeting 12-year-old girls, no, that's completely inappropriate. Meeting 18-year-old girls. One of the things that South by Southwest, right? It's the big tech musical crazy festival. Another reason for the Austin people to go crazy for a week. So that festival's been going on, and turns out that a lot of tech guys show up there, which means a lot of single guys, and they're on the old Tinder, right? Swipe left or swipe right, or I forget which way it works. But one of the things that they're all meeting local to the show is AVA. And so if you swipe, you like AVA, it fires up, starts to chat with you. Hey, how are you? She starts, who are you? What's the meaning of life? All type of stuff. And it turns out that it's actually a artificial intelligence style chatbot that they've put in place. And when you click on Ava's Tinder profile after chatting with the robot for 5 minutes, or not on her Tinder profile, on her Instagram profile, you find out that Ava is actually a character in this new movie that they're promoting at the show. So I think it's an interesting way to go about promoting a movie. Get a bunch of guys, sitting in the bar swiping, and all of a sudden they're chatting with a pretty girl, and next thing they know, they're realizing they've been scammed into going to a movie website. Thoughts?
Can you imagine being the guy that doesn't know about this story and meets Ava and is a 94% compatibility match on Tinder? I don't know how that works. I probably just showed how out of touch I am with. You need to get Scuba on here to have these conversations. But can you imagine you're that guy?
Yeah.
And then you're like, are you kidding me? It's a commercial for a movie? I thought we really had something here.
Oh, yeah. It's breaking some hearts. Well, I think what was more interesting, so I actually caught this story pretty much right as it was breaking. But, there was 2 or 3 national articles about it already. But if you went to Ava's Instagram account, she had 70 followers or something. So it kind of seemed like that there wasn't a lot of interest from the guys that were getting duped into going there, but because of the clever thing they were doing, they were getting all this free press about their movie and about the stunt they pulled. And so the story, it turns out that the advertising came from the story of people covering them duping all these target users that wanted nothing to do with Ava.
How do you think? What's the Tinder valued at right now? Probably pretty high, right? How do you think the creators of Tinder feel about somebody using their platform for not the intended purpose whatsoever? Do you think the producers or whatever of that movie reached out to Tinder ahead of time to say, "Hey, we're doing this"?
No way. That's not how viral marketing works. They jumped in. I'm guessing the Tinder folks were probably excited, though, right? I mean, it's free advertising, whether it's negative or positive. I think it's still people talking about Tinder as a means for, social collaboration. And Tinder, I'm pretty sure, hasn't really found a model to make money. They're thinking about, I guess, making it so you can only swipe so much before you have to pay. But they haven't really found a model to cash in on the millions and millions of users. So they might be excited, man, we could charge, corporate accounts to do this type of shenanigans. I don't know.
I just wonder. I mean, I think Tinder's got millions of users, so they could just go that's a separate conversation, and they could just figure out a way to sell ads. They have tons of information about these dudes and gals. Right, so I mean, they could figure out pretty quickly what these folks are interested in, just do targeted advertisements, and probably be super lucrative in and of that. I just wonder, what's the difference between that and Twitter? Ava has 75,000 followers, but how many of those are legitimate Tinder users? It's probably 74,995, and that number keeps on increasing. Once people figure it out, those followers are actually more interested in whatever movie that is promoting. Is it a good movie? What movie is it?
It's about artificial intelligence. One of the reviews I read said it was a pretty good movie, but it's hard to say. I don't know. I'm always jealous. I always like people who figure out, solve the viral marketing idea, because clearly it worked. Now whether or not it's having the right effect there, but I mean, we're talking about it now. It's on all news websites, so
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
It's obviously working in some regards.
Yeah.
Because they just got the word out to thousands of ears through this netcast alone.
Life altered. They should give me a commission. Maybe I'm a producer of the movie. Maybe I'm cashing in on this. Speaking the opposite of cashing in, one of the sad pieces of the news from last week that got missed because there wasn't a show is the tech magazine Gigaom. They actually went belly up last week. So last Monday they sent emails out to all their employees and said, hey, we can't afford to pay our bills anymore. That includes you guys, so sorry. So that was kind of a sad one to see. I mean, it was a good quality tech website. They wrote a lot of good stuff. They actually were the ones that got to write the early scoop article in the SharePoint 911 acquisition even. And looks like they're not making it anymore.
Sad emoji.
I know.
So the effect is Gigaom no longer exists. What was the cause?
Couldn't pay their bills.
Oh, okay. The effect is Gigaom couldn't pay the bills. What was the cause? Like, what? So obviously, people were maybe they were never profitable. I don't know. How long were they around? I'm not that familiar.
Yeah, I don't. I mean,
presumably for several years. So maybe they just lived off of seed money for several years. I don't know, but presumably at some point they were making some money, and they were getting high traffic on their site. What caused them to stop? I mean, what do you think it was? It's not like I don't think there's a yes or no answer here. I'm just.
I mean, for me, I'm guessing it's really that just display ads is just not a viable model in the long run. I think you can have short bursts, but I think a lot of those cases, so when you think about display ads, and they're actually talking about in the chat room right now, right, is the display ads try to target at your users either based on the content that's on the website or your browser cookies and things like that. But if you think about the guy or girl who's in charge of controlling what ads show up on your website, it really just takes one miss, right? 1 6-month campaign where you're only promoting, you gave an exclusive contract to promote bobbleheads or something, and oops, none of your users care, and even though you're still getting 10 million hits a day, you're having to pay for all these web servers. If no one's clicking on your ads, you're making $0 at the end of the day.
That's not, so you don't, how many times do you click on ads on a website?
Almost 0.
But more than 0. Admit it. You've clicked on them before.
I would literally say that if I've clicked on more than 10 in the last year, I'd be shocked.
Here's the problem. So you and I, the world knows, and Todd work at Rackspace. So we very frequently visit. We have Rackspace cookies all over our browsers, and so we get targeted Rackspace ads wherever we go whenever you use Google AdSense and whenever Google AdSense is used. And I think a lot of companies, the point is that's not super great. Like, we are the last people that necessarily need to see Rackspace ads because we already love that company. So the reality is that there's a lot of companies, I think, that don't, instead of like hiring and building a marketing platform and doing targeted advertisements, they just rely on a vendor to provide that stuff for them. They just have like random ads shown up and use some sort of algorithm to try and figure that out. And I just think that if maybe and maybe Gigaom was doing this and I'm completely wrong, but I just think there's a story to be told around figuring out a way to make your advertisements more effective by knowing your audience and signing agreements, going out and reaching out to people and being like, hey, you should advertise on our site because we get 150,000 hits a day, and these are the people that are reading our stuff, and this is your target demographic. Because Google and the ad whatever people that are not Google, like that other 3% of the market, they aren't doing that stuff. right? They're just trying to figure it out. They're using computers to figure out what ads to show on your site, and that's not good enough, I don't think, unless you're except for a blog.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think and I think it's so easy to. I'm guessing it's so easy to go from, man, we're making thousands of dollars a day in the ads because we're running the perfect campaign, to switch into a different campaign and no one cares. And if no one cares, you go to zero. It's a tough business there. And it's.
But it's all about traffic. I think you get paid for click-throughs for sure, but you can't count on click-throughs. So what you rely on is you sell ads we paid X percent per view or X cents per view per hit, basically, and that's what you get paid for. And that's why they do the video ads, because the video ads are real money. Those are hard to skip or to dodge, especially if you don't use a Flash plugin. You can't hide those as easy. And so now all of a sudden you can get paid for a 15-second spot on someone's website, a commercial, when no one watches commercials on television anymore. And now you can get people watching them on their computer like they weren't before, to buy your Doritos or your Ford Taurus.
Well, the other problem though you have with ads is different ads pay different amounts, right, based on the keywords of what you're targeting. That was another one of those things I learned back in the SharePoint days when we were trying to when we were trying to think about running our own ads, right? I mean, one keyword might be worth 10 cents a click, and another might be literally worth $10 a click, right? SharePoint training, for example, in its heyday, was one of the most expensive AdWords you could buy. But,
Silly.
SharePoint Netcast was almost nothing because no one other than Todd cares about SharePoint Netcast. But so that's another thing to keep in mind when you're running these campaigns, right? I've actually looked into the whole YouTube model for advertising as well, and running ads that bring in. So if you're going to get 1 million views, well, you really want a specific 1 million views, right? So if you're going to get 1 million views around Minecraft videos, most of the videos or ads attached to those are pennies, right? They're worth a penny a click type of deal. But if you could run a website around home mortgages and get the millions of views of the home mortgages website, well, all those clicks are worth $10 a click, right? So now, if you had the same click rate, I can't even do the math, right? But you're making 1,000x more profits based on just more expensive ads. But you can also have a much lower subscriber rate and a much lower click rate over here with the home mortgage stuff because it pays so gosh darn much more. So all of this, I mean, it becomes very complicated very quickly.
Yeah, and super boring. We should move on.
We should. All right. Next topic I had there are our friends. Muscle cars are scary. So, I know that Todd's big into that Trans Am thing of his, that 77 Smoking the Bandit thing. If you're ever trying to look for an icebreaker when you meet Todd, just ask him about his car. He will get all excited. You'll see his mullet kind of start to grow out. But I thought it was interesting today. There's all the talk about muscle cars and how they're not really a thing anymore. Teslas and their electric cars that are so super fast. Why would you buy a big American V8? So Dodge actually recently this year released a car called the Hellcat. There's both a Challenger and a Charger version. It's 707 horsepower. It's pretty amazing. And they actually have been so successful with it that they had to stop production today and stop taking orders because they've already sold like twice as many as they planned to build for the entire year, and so they don't even know when they're going to catch up. So I thought that was really exciting to kind of see, American muscle having a good run.
Well, you could argue that the pendulum swung so far to one side of the market that all of a sudden there was a void, and Dodge were like, well, maybe we should just create this super, people don't buy those cars to drive them around town and buy groceries. They drive them, I don't know if a luxury is the right word, but the same reason that someone builds an expensive computer to play video games on, or a motorcycle to ride 110 miles an hour. You know what I'm saying? It just sounds like a good business move to me.
Yeah, well, and that's the $2 a gallon gas is definitely not hurting, and it's interesting. It's interesting to see where will gas go. When we get back to $4 a gallon, will the muscle cars go away and Tesla will be the hottest thing ever again? They have a big announcement on Thursday too about ending range anxiety. So I don't know.
What do you mean range anxiety?
Range anxiety. So one of the big challenges with electric cars, right? So for example, the Tesla, it's got a range of 200 to 280 miles, depending on which one of the batteries you get. So if you're trying to go on a road trip that's 250 miles from your house, right? Is the car really going to get to 250 miles on this road trip? You know, am I going to be able to charge it once I get there? Just all the fears of running out of electricity, because there's not a gas station on every corner like there is.
And some people will put you in jail for charging your car on their plugs.
I haven't heard that one.
Oh. Yeah, that was the thing. I think it was in Alabama or Florida.
Uh-oh.
It was down in the southeast somewhere.
We'll assume Alabama.
Where a dude, let's see if somebody can pull this and put it in chat. But where a guy, like, I think he was like going to visit his kid at his kid's school, and so he pulls his whatever pluggable car into a parking spot and like runs an extension cord up and plugs it into the side of the gym or whatever. And he got put in jail for stealing electricity from, I guess, the city or the county or whatever the school was owned by. You never heard that? You never heard that story?
I haven't, but I mean, it is stealing, so I
feel like we've had this exact same conversation. Yeah, I don't disagree that it's not, but it's surprising. Like, even the police chief was like, look, it's not whether or not you agree or disagree with it. The fact of the matter is the electricity was paid for by someone else, and it ran his car, and there was a lot of it, so they decided to press charges, and he was guilty. There it is. Lori's just an outstanding EP. She's already got in the chat room.
I know. Lori is the best executive producer ever, so. All right. Let's see. Moving along. Keep speaking the executive producer cracking the whip. When I was actually sitting here prepping for the show, got my typical Microsoft release on bug fixes, and there was 2 fixes released in the security bulletin I got updated, and both were for Windows 2003 issues. I thought that was very random. I guess this is a good chance to remind everyone that Windows 2003 is coming to end-of-life support in June. Everybody keeps hoping that Microsoft is going to extend it a little further, because there's, I don't know, somewhere around 20 million Windows 2003 servers still in the world, but all I'm being told is it ain't happening. So if you guys are some of those guilty folks who got Windows 2003 still... Yeah.
Why? Why do you still have Windows 2003?
Supposedly what I've been told, the biggest reason is 32-bit apps, right? They custom wrote some craptastic 32-bit app, and they got it, spread across 17 different Windows 2003 servers. No one understands how it works. No one even knows what language it's written in anymore, and they just don't have a good way to pick it up and do something with it.
That's super depressing.
It is.
This is, hindsight and all that, I guess, right?
Yeah, but I mean, and then one of the challenges they're having, this is actually not to plug our stuff, I'm going to plug our stuff. One of the challenges people have is that if they want to pick up 32-bit workloads, you can't just go throw those in public cloud either, right? All the public cloud providers are all running 64-bit OSs. So that's where, we've stood up the private cloud options, because we can still run 32-bit workloads in the private cloud, whether it be Windows 2003 or... Some people forget, but Windows 2008 actually came in both 32-bit and 64-bit flavors. So you can actually, if you really wanted to keep the problem going for a little longer, move up to Windows 2008, run that for 3 or 4 more years. You can run your 32-bit workloads. Not recommending it, but it is possible.
I just wonder why you're not, like, there's got to be, like, an emulator. There's got to be a platform that you can kind of abstract or virtualize, even if it's inside the OS, your application. That's a problem. Like, that's a lot of servers that are going to be. I wonder how many people woke up one day and were like, holy hell, we've got 4 months before our Windows server that runs our business is not going to receive security patches anymore.
Well, as a guy who, I guess one of the hats I wear is understanding this market, I don't think they have. I don't think that the light bulbs came on for those 20 million people yet. I honestly, at this point, don't think it's going to come on until we get to July. And like, what do you mean that new security vulnerability is not fixed on the server? Or why can't I call Microsoft and get help rebooting this server and why it's blue screening? I think it's going to be, it's not going to be until after it's done expired before a lot of these people get serious about moving.
If you're a hacker, I mean, you've been working on this for months, right?
Yeah.
Presumably, like, you're going to find you're going to be ready to attack whatever the next vulnerability is directly at a lot of machines that are not guaranteed to be patched, or likely not to be patched in.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just not a stretch. I mean, think about how many Windows. I mean, I know every time I go to a conference, I talk to people about SharePoint 2003 still. We all know that Windows XP is prevalent in the world. I mean, it's not even hard to find a Windows XP box, and I just think until something really bad happens, no one's going to change.
XP predates 2003, right?
I think so, yeah. But
that was aligned with the Windows Server 2000 release, I think. It was the one after ME, which came after 98. So it might have been in between them.
Yeah.
It was like
right there, it was. I think it was at the start.
Like 2000 SP4 or something like that. XP came out right before 2003.
Yeah. But yeah, so it's a scary world. But I'm telling you, the Windows 2003 stuff is still hot and heavy with the world. So. That just makes me kind of sad. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make you sad.
I mean, you have that effect on me sometimes, but the tech, just as someone who, I guess when you work close to the technology stacks and being as close to we are to the Microsoft stack, it stinks that there's folks out there that aren't looking forward to that stuff.
Well,
I'm moving forward with that stuff. Not just failing to move forward, but really, really failing to move forward.
Yeah.
Like failure to launch type of stuff. 40 years old, living in your parents' attic.
Hey, I got a relative that's doing that.
That's a rom-com reference.
Oh, I got it. Remember, and he got attacked by the squirrel and the dolphin, and because he wasn't in tune with nature.
That wasn't that movie. This movie had Matthew McConaughey and the guy who's Rocket Raccoon's voice. Right,
and in the beginning of the movie, one of the signs for old Matthew McConaughey was he got attacked by a dolphin and a squirrel and a bunch of animals, because his other buddy was a super nature dude, but that was part of he was out of sync with the world. These peaceful animals were attacking him. Yeah, that's right. I know my rom-coms too, buddy.
Oh, I feel like I've been bested in one of my claims to fame. Failure to Launch was the movie we were just referring to. Matthew McConaughey, Sarah Jessica Parker. She was in movies for like 2 years. Bradley, what's his last name? Was just an American Sniper. Was in Bradley Cooper. Yeah, he was in it for like 20 minutes, 20 seconds even.
Yeah, I think he was the friend that was all, in tune with nature, going on hikes and stuff all the time.
He went mountain climbing with them.
Yeah, so he was the one that told them about, he was having all the problems getting bit by squirrels and dolphins and things that don't attack. Yeah, now Lori doesn't remember the attacking animals either. All right, well, we're going to put the show on hold. Somebody go to MB. Yep, and Terry Bradshaw
definitely got naked in that movie. That's unfortunate that came up. Oh, wow, we must have a huge delay because the chat room's chiming in from conversations like over a minute ago.
All right.
Bradley Cooper was the guy whose name I couldn't remember.
So when somebody is hunting this down on IMDb or whatever, anything else, Jonathan? I know we're kind of getting towards the end of the show here. I didn't know. Is there anything? Are you busy looking up your rom-com now?
No. Wasn't that movie had all kinds of stars in it? Wasn't the new girl in there too? She was, right? She was the friend.
No, was she really?
Zoe Deschanel was in there.
Yeah, that sounds pretty good.
Sarah Jessica Parker, Zoe Deschanel, and Bradley Cooper. The guy who was with Bradley Cooper in Hangover was in there. Terry Bradshaw's in there. That's crazy.
Boom. When Dolphins attack scene from Failure to Launch movie. There it is. There it is. There it is. All right. I'm going to get off the internet now. All right. So I guess we'll just switch gears here, start wrapping this puppy up. Unless, was there anything you wanted to talk about, Mr. JPM, as a guest?
I'm okay. We've been here for like 50 minutes, so.
I know. I gotta
Todd will get mad at us if we go too much longer. Oh, NCAA. Listen, they're talking about the NCAA bracket.
Who?
In the chat room. Bear Gal 34. Bear Gal 34. I wonder what the significance.
Chicago Bears. I'll bet $1.
I wonder what this significance. Shame is dancing.
Oh, yeah. She likes my dance moves. All right. Anyway, all right. So promotions. So reminder, Todd will be at SharePoint Evolutions April 20th to the 22nd. I'm guessing I end up having to host a netcast that week too, so you can look forward to that. He's doing 2 upgrade sessions on Wednesday morning. Microsoft Ignite, May 4th through the 8th. Good old Chicago. Should be a little crazy, a little sold out, so you get that done. So it looks like, my notes are literally, there we go. Pre-conference session on OneDrive for Business, and then an upgrade session, so Todd will be doing those. I'll be out at the show, just hanging out in the booth, looking pretty. I think Lori will be at the show doing a
Lori's
session.
Speaking. Yeah.
What's she doing? She's speaking
Adoption, I think.
Adoption for IT pros, that's right. So our executive producer, get out there, get her autograph. Always a good time. Give her a hug. She likes hugs. Sorry, Miss Laura Rogers will be doing the show with her, so I didn't want to get in trouble for not mentioning that. Also, extra special reminder, next week, special guest star, Mark Manassi. He's a super cool dude. Had the fortune of hanging out with him, doing a couple dinners with him, and just super smart guy, down to earth, easy to talk to. I don't even think Todd can screw up the interview, so should be cool to see what Mark's got on tap. And I think on that note, Mr. Mass, that's all the things I have. What about you? Any closing words here?
No, they're talking about the NCAA bracket in the chat room, and I just noticed, I was looking, the University of Kentucky, which is the state that I live in, I didn't go to UK, but I mean, there's some significance there.
You couldn't get into it, right?
It's even money. I absolutely got into Kentucky, but it's even money to win the national championship. Like, you may as well not even bet on it.
There's really just no chance they don't win. I mean, let's just be honest.
I mean, there's a chance, but they're pretty good. And I also read an article on ESPN today. This is a classic ESPN. That they had like 9 bold predictions for the NCAA tournament, and number 1 is that Kentucky will win the national championship. So the team that's literally even money in Las Vegas, it's not a very bold prediction. I don't think that they're going to win the tournament.
I would have to agree. I did see.
It'll be fun to watch.
Speaking of the tournament, so remember last year they had the whole pick a perfect bracket, get $1 billion.
Not $1 billion. Oh yeah, Yahoo did that.
Yeah, there's a big promo about it. Turns out that all those companies were working together to do that. All got really mad at each other about how they did it, and so they're all currently suing each other over whose right it was to have the show and whose idea it was. And no one won the $1 billion, nothing to do with it anymore, but they're just all bored, so they're all suing each other. I read that today too.
We love to litigate.
We do. All right, I think on that note, before my wife decides to litigate me for not being home in bed, I want to say thanks, everybody, for having us tonight. Jonathan, I want to say thank you for joining. It's always a pleasure to hang out and talk to you for 45 minutes.
Always my pleasure. I enjoy it every time.
I am very, very envious of the microphone. Mine was completely faked. Ha ha. Jonathan's real stuff.
It's real. There's a cable. Lots of cables, actually.
All right, everybody. I think on that note, have a good night, and we'll talk to you soon.
See you guys.